Hello. Okay, I'm going to walk through my New Mexico solve. I'll try to do it as quickly as possible. I have gone to this place 4 times. I've gone boots on the ground 6 times. 4 of them were to, no, 5 of them were to New Mexico. 4 of them were to Cloudcroft. And I don't know if I'll go back. I felt really good about this, but I didn't find anything, so how good can you feel? But I'll walk you through it. Maybe someone else will have better luck. Maybe someone can point out how dumb I am. I don't know. Anything's helpful, I guess. So, Cloudcroft, why did I go to Cloudcroft? Quite literally, he says, or his dad tells him that it's Posey land. That's where his heritage is. I think that he refers to his dad as his guardian angel, and I think a lot of who he is was shaped by his dad. Obviously, there are other forces there as well. Maybe some people make a joke about it, but I really think that getting the book inside the lodge at Cloudcroft would happen if it was hidden there. I mean, I think that would make his dad smile to know that the book was there. But I don't know. I just felt this feeling that that based on just some of the specific things that were said in the stories, like how he specifically said how his dad would wake up first thing in the morning, would explore all the trails, sometimes on horseback. That particular line in general triggered something later on that made me feel right. And so honestly, I went four times in a row. The time before that, I went to Benito Lake or Lake Benito. I forget which it is. Benito Lake, I think. And I didn't realize that they were closed in 2013 because of a fire. But they reopened for fishing in 2014, which, I mean, I thought that'd be a good place to kind of revitalize the beauty of that place, is sending a lot of people there if it was hidden there. But anyway, I don't think it's there because they're closed. And he loves a loophole, but I don't think he breaks the rules. So I don't think that you could have accessed the area legally. So I ruled that out. So the last 4 times I went to Cloudcroft. I've been to the lodge. Under a tornado watch. Hopefully not a tornado warning. Either way, I'm going to continue. So, Cloudcroft, I've been to the lodge, read about Rebecca's ghost. It got room service from from Rebecca's. So the ghost is Rebecca, and the restaurant is named after Rebecca. And there's also a bar there, and that bar was used to be in Chicago and owned by Al Capone, and they relocated it to the lodge at Cloudcroft, which was built in 1899 and is old, but it was a good experience to go there. What Justin does not mention in his book is Mad Jack's Barbecue, which is right in the middle of town, open Thursdays through Sunday. It was a 2-hour wait the first day that I went, which was a bit of an issue because the line goes out the door, and where I was in line, it took about 2 hours to get through, and yet it was worth it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The owner there, his name is Jack. He usually is there cutting the meat and measuring it out, and he'll talk to you when you go through the station. And honestly, every time I've been there, I've gotten the barbecue place, and it's been a very small consolation prize, but a great consolation prize to the trip. And let's see, what else have I done there? I went down to Alamogordo. I went to the White Sands, Victoria Peak. I experienced a lot of things that he wrote in the book, which honestly only made me feel more confident that what I had was right, which I've wasted too much time now, so let's just get into it. Can you find what lives in time flowing through each measured rhyme? For me, at that point, I thought it was the Posey heritage, so obviously moments, stories, awakenings, all connect to the ultimate legacy or heritage of the family, and that's what the book kind of is locking in. And then for me, that specifically points to Cloudcroft, being the heritage, and flowing through each measured rhyme. In Cloudcroft, the trail network there is the Cloud Climbing Railroad to Cloudcroft. So there's alliteration 3 times if you think of it that way, which I did because I think it rhymes. And there's alliteration in the chapters of the book themselves, which I think is intentional. And I haven't figured all that out yet, but I thought that was sending me there. And then wisdom waits in shadowed sight, I thought meant refer to the trail maps. For those who read these words just right, made me think that like there's a pattern within the trail maps, since there's a dash, which means the 2 lines are kind of connected to each other. And so originally, that is what those 4 lines, that stanza is what got me to go to Cloudcroft and to investigate the trails more deeply. Each time I went deeper into the trail network, which measures out to about 6 miles, a little bit over, but 6 miles is the walk that he took with Tucker on a daily basis, so that made me feel better. But anyway, as hope surges clear and bright, walk near water's silent flight. The main trail network is there's a trestle wreck area in the center of it, and that trestle wreck area, drove in there, parked. There's a gate, which I assume locks at certain times, and then there's a $5 daily fee, and that was a deal breaker for me. So I left. I got on the Mad Jack's barbecue line, and thought about it some more. Looked on Google, looked on ChatGPT, tried to figure out, is there a free way to access like this trail network? Because my preliminary research told me it was free. Obviously, getting there changes things, but everything referenced, including Google Maps, like this free parking area, that if you follow the map, you don't go there. It takes you to a kind of a different place on a different road, very, very close, but different. And there's a sign right before where you're actually meant to turn that implies that it's something completely different, but it's essentially a little gravel pullout that is actually where you park to access the village spur trail, T5001A. And that trail overlooks that parking lot overlooks the Cloudcroft power plant, which I thought was another way that like power surges. I don't know if it's clear or bright, but I mean it surges. But then my hope was surging because I found this parking area, and then my hope was surging again because I found the village spur trail, which is essentially a detour or a shortcut to get onto the main trail network. And I was able to cross out all of the wrestle or the trestle wreck area paths and only use kind of the outer inner network to kind of go through this, which I thought was the right thing to do. We'll see. But anyway, as hope surges clear and bright, walk near water's silent flight. So you go up that trail, and as you kind of bend the corner of that trail, there are water markers in the ground on the left. There's 4 of them, like city water markers. I don't know if they're valves or meters or what they are, but water is flowing through the pipes within those units there. And there's also a waste, they recycle their water. And so there's a waste filtering system that it goes through, and it flows all through that area. And so it feels like water is kind of flowing all around you, beneath you. And I feel like that marker, I feel like this entire stanza is kind of Justin's stanza, and it all is kind of loophole based. So this parking spot, kind of a loophole to the trail system. The water, not what anyone is thinking when it comes to walk near water silent flight, which I'm like, yeah, that's tricky. So then you stay on T5001 and you get to the next junction where you have to choose another path. And I want to go in kind of chronological order, which is kind of how he says he organizes his fridge: chronological order, expiration date, and then personal preference. So I tried to apply that to the trail network, and so I felt like that meant to turn on T5001, which I felt like would come after A. I don't know, felt right. But anyway, you bend onto that, which is a right turn bend. There's a trail that there's a map of this trail network that's the official map, and it gives instructions kind of every which way imaginable across like multiple starting points, and it also says somewhere on there like when in doubt go right. So you'll notice that we're going to take a lot of rights here, which is not confirmation bias. It's how the clues naturally worked out. So I don't know. I don't know what confirmation bias is, but apparently it's a real thing, and maybe that's what this is. But anyway, so you bend onto there, and in sequence, you bend onto that trail, and then it goes through the Devil's Elbow, which is essentially a dynamited area in the actual Sacramento Mountains that was blown. I feel like it's fun that there's dynamite, and later on there's going to be a boulder. Like, I feel like it's a little like a tribute, perhaps, of sorts, to we all know what. Anyway, you go through the Devil's Elbow, which is a hole that was blown into the side of the mountain for the train to pass through. This whole network follows the old train path that ultimately is what created Bonito Lake, is the railroad going in, and ultimately Cloudcroft as a town would not exist without the railroad. Also, a couple other things. He says it's Posey land, and like his dad said it's his heritage, but if you actually research the area, it's true. I mean, they go back to the beginning. They were responsible for forming the school for the church, along with a couple other families, I believe, that kind of like kick-started that area. But without the railroad, which intersects within his mom, within his dad, I feel like that it was a connection point. So after you go through Devil's Elbow, which is the hole, you get to a junction. And at that junction, it says, "I wait for you to cast your pole." For me, that was Brandon waiting there. And it's a connection to the story early on where he kind of mentions how Brandon was sitting on like a pine tree or something like that, just kind of watching a father teach his son how to fish, and he was just kind of like taking in that moment. And so for me, it was kind of, he uses rod primarily and not pole, so I felt like it was directional, and I felt like that was Brandon kind of shifting from Justin's stanza to like his outward family. And so Brandon's first. That junction, you can go down and to the left, which will take you to the remnants of the S Trestle, which followed the switchback all along the mountain. It couldn't take a straight shot, so it had to switch back and go along these arcs to ultimately get to the top of the mountain gradually. And so the S Trestle is actually the largest trestle there. They just, it's the remnants of it. And so you have where I would say like spirits of the past and like history and all this. Like, I feel like that's what Brandon's going to explore to the left. And then we go on to in Eartha East, his realm awaits. If you go right, which I think Ursa, not capitalized, means bear, but any way you crack it, whether it's constellation or that, I think you're going east, northeast, which in this scenario takes you right on the path and geographically takes you towards Cloudcroft, again, towards the heritage, but ultimately this trail leads you to the Mexican Canyon Trestle, which is a homage, a living, breathing trestle that they rebuilt and kind of have there as kind of a monument to the railroad and to what helped build Cloudcroft. And so it's if you're into railroad history and that, it's a big deal. And so in Earth East, his realm awaits. You're essentially following that trail of the railroad to what is the largest remaining symbol of that railroad. And so in Earth East, his realm awaits. I think that's his dad's realm, and you're riding the railroad kind of with him until the next stop. His bride awaits at Ancient Gates. Or wait a minute. Yeah, his bride awaits at Ancient Gates. Her foot of 3 at 20 degree. Return her face to find the place. I think that means that you're taking the trail all the way to the viewpoint, which is kind of a gate to the trestle itself. And you can kind of go through that gate and go down to the bottom of the trestle, where, for me, that trestle, those sort of objects in railroad were feminine leaning. I think it represents his mom also in the railroad, and so it's where his dad meets the mom. His bride stands guard at ancient gates. I think the bride is the mom, and obviously the husband isn't the dad. There's a story in there where he captions a picture of mom and dad, and then in parentheses he says AKA bride and groom. So I feel like that was kind of a connection to that. And so I think you go down to the bottom of that trestle, and there's three things that you could take away from that. One is the actual foundation support within the trestle legs is essentially three triangles that make up the primary support system. The feet of the trestle also touch the ground flush with the ground. There's 3 feet that are flush with the ground. And then she has 3 children herself. So I think 3 ways kind of works. But return her face to find the place, I think means to... Oh, also this arc. This arc is kind of at a 20-degree arc, and the direction that it's facing is approximately 20 degrees. So I think it works a couple different ways. But return her face to find the place. I think you're going back to the trail itself, which is T5001. And then your next decision, and again, if we're focusing on like what's to our right as we go through these decision-making processes, the next right is going to be the crossover trail, which is T5001C, double arcs of granite bold. That essentially takes you along like a Z or a double V along the old switchback trail. So these are actual remnants of the old switchback that go through the mountain, literal granite mountain, and arcs within that mountain that were literally built into the mountain itself. And so you retrace those steps, and then you get to where Secrets of the Past still hold. At the next junction, there is an old survivor shelter there that is kind of like a monument to, or just a history marker of times of the past, which I think fits. And then beyond the reach of time's swift race is the next junction. So you can go left or right. Again, we're going right, but if you went left, you would go back to the Trestle Recreation Area, which would be Time's Swift Race. So to go away from or beyond Time's Swift Race, we have to go to the right. And then Wonder Guard's a sacred place. The next junction is with the Switchback Trail itself. And Wonder, I think, is Brandon. And so Brandon, again, is waiting at the junction to get onto the Switchback Trail. And then the truth rests not in clever finds, or not in clever minds or tangled, twisted finds. The first thing you pass after going right is going to be a tunnel, or a tunnel that goes underneath the highway. I think creating that was clever at the time. Obviously required lots of engineering and into rugged terrain. So I think that is a clever accomplishment, but the truth isn't there. So go through the tunnel and move on. And then you're going to get to an area where you have to kind of cross over to the left, and then you have to walk up a trail, then go right, and then go left again, and then go through a gate, and then go through the tail of the switchback, and then go through switchbacks themselves. And with all that, I think like you're going through a very twisty, turny area of the of that trail itself. And once you get into that, it kind of gets into a straightaway. And when you get into that straightaway down, it's probably a couple miles. But however, what he said about only having to go a mile will come in play later. But ultimately you go down a couple miles and you get to this clearing where there's a bench and a lookout. That lookout essentially is what I would describe as a fairway. That is the Toboggan Canyon, also known as Powerline Trail. And it's just this, it looks like a football field with power lines going down the middle of it. It looks like you should be teeing off. And I think that if you applied binoculars in that area, which is a connection to his grandpa and him always seeing a fairway that he always had to explore deeper. So my thought was, like, do you need to use binoculars here and find something along this trail or in this area? And then what you seek, you already know, like a river steady flow. Like a river steady flow, if you look at this trail, there is essentially a dry, I don't know, river, creek, stream, whatever it is, a dry area where water used to come all the way down. Maybe it does in certain seasonal aspects, but it's completely dry now, but you can see where it carved its way through this trail. And so I think that that is like a river steady flow. And then what you seek, you already know. So are you supposed to see that area and follow the trail? Or are you supposed to look down and to the left where there's kind of a valley of cottonwoods, where there is a tree that looks very similar to a horse's mane, I'm going to say. It's completely the same shape. I inspected it very thoroughly. It doesn't appear to be there, but I also don't have a metal detector. I mean, for all I know, he wants a metal detector to be used, and I've walked past the treasure, and I didn't even notice it because I didn't dig deep enough. I have a little shovel, but it's not big enough. Anyway, I researched more, and I found that on the Toboggan Trail, or the Powerline Trail, about a mile up and to the left side are remnants of an old teal truck. And that's important for two reasons. One is, I would say that Justin's dad, one of the best moments that he had as a father was when he spurred into action, when just on the concrete kiss, when he essentially face planted into the asphalt so bad that Brandon thought that they might die. He rushed into action, and there's this like unforgettable scene that he paints of his dad in a truck careening down a fairway to kind of essentially come rescue him. So here's this moment of Arizona that's probably one of his dad's most defining moments. It's transported into New Mexico in an area that he deems to be Posey land. And for me, like, that seems like a really big coincidence. Is you have this trail that looks like a fairway with a truck on it, with this image of his father also with a truck on a fairway, mixed with if you watch the Netflix documentary and you look at the picture that comes across, I think it's in episode 1, but I'm not 100% sure. They show a picture of his grandpa with the binoculars looking down a fairway, and if you look at that picture, there's an imperfection. Maybe it's a bird, maybe, I don't know what it is, but you can see that there's what looks to be like lint in the top right-hand corner, and then kind of a little bit diagonal and to the left of that, there's another mark, much larger, and could be a number of things. But if you actually look in the book itself, that mark isn't there. The lint in the top right-hand corner, or whatever the dust mite is, that's there, but the mark isn't. And so, for me, like, it's saying, like, go down the fairway. There was a lot of parallels where it looked like what he was looking at in that picture is similar to the view that I'm looking at here. So I went up by the truck. It's 1,000-foot elevation climb in a mile. I did it 3 times. I definitely, I'm getting in really good shape. No, I'm not actually getting in really good shape. I was in awful shape, and I'm getting in just enough shape that I can do this. Required many, many breaks, many rests. It's easier coming down, I'd say, but going up, like, definitely feel the burn. Definitely, there's so much real estate. Like, there's so many trees. There's so many areas where even with a broken leg you could get to. And, like, I'm not so good at the boots on the ground part necessarily. Obviously no one is until they find the actual treasure. But it's very possible that I could be in the right spot and not find it. Like, I would expect that potentially from myself. But yeah, I don't. For me, I was able to, through Justin's story and through clues within the book, what I felt to be solves to all 20 lines, and took me to a very specific spot that I was looking for on the trail. And honestly, once you get to that truck, like, there's one very large tree that's downed, and then there's another collection of like 3 trees that are downed. I navigated those trees. I looked underneath them. I looked for holes. But it looked like the place, or the sort of place where you could conceal something in plain sight, or it's dug and I walked right over it. I don't know. Anyway, the problem is I don't know. It feels so right, but I didn't find anything. I've been there 4 times, Like, do I keep going there? At what point do I rule it out? It's very difficult without a bronze sniffing dog, I've learned. And so that's what I'm wrestling with now. It feels like it checks a lot of the boxes. But who knows? Who knows? It's a beautiful area. I enjoyed staying at the lodge. I enjoyed Mad Jack's. There's a good breakfast place in Alamogordo. Yeah, there's a nice gas station there. I've been to that gas station probably 27 times. I need a lot of caffeine to stay, to handle these walks. But there are also different areas that you can park. There's 3 different options. All 3 of them are free. But if the treasure were on that canyon or on that canyon trail, you can park pretty much right, maybe 1/8 of a mile from where the start of that trail is. And so if the trail were there, it would take less than a mile potentially to get it quite easily. But that's it. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Don't know if it's right, don't know if it's wrong, but I felt good about it. Enough to go 4 times, which is about 20 hours round trip driving. Maybe I'm a little obsessive. I don't know. But yeah, it's a healthy obsession, I've told myself. And I think it is. Like, I've really tried to dissect things, and I feel like I found a lot. And I don't know what confirmation bias is exactly, but like, I feel like I'm not making up things that like to fit. I got within this trail network that I thought it was pointing towards, and then each time I took the clue, applied it to the decision on the trail, and a very natural answer just kind of came out. Whether or not that's coincidence, whether or not that was planned as, like, maybe this works for multiple different areas and we're meant to explore different areas that were important to him. I mean, he's probably smart enough to do that. Way above my head, but I'm starting to look at other areas, at least mentally. But like, I felt really good going there. Like, knowing that I was going specifically to that truck, that there were really points of like that I could view as confirmation. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but maybe someone else will have better luck. But that's it. All right, thanks, bye.